Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Awesome, cool. Let me just claim host. Vikiswa,
Hello.
hi. Did you just join a little early?
Yes,
Okay, cool.
I was trying to join a little earlier. I had trouble with my.
Thanks, Yvonne.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. Welcome to a very exciting talk by Shea Karssing today. We are going to learn how to take a dump on our boss's desk, leave them in the rear view mirror. I'm very keen to get this talk out there. As a freelancer, I really think that more people should freelance. And Shea has literally written the book about how to freelance. She has messed up a lot, and she shares that in her great book, Freelance Like a Boss. And in that messing up, she has learned how to freelance. So I'm very excited to hear from her tonight about what's going to make it possible for you to jump into the freelancing game. Tonight is made possible by Tasha's On Demand and Intellect. Thank you so much for our sponsors. The people in Cape Town, the pizza is also from the sponsors. So when you have indigestion, you know who to thank for that. Then lastly, I know that there's a big Microsoft event coming up. The 30th of October, there's a Microsoft AI event, a new era. You should look it up. Go see. It might be very interesting for the people that are interested in the AI game. If you can Google, you can find it, I'm pretty sure. Shea, I'm not going to steal more of your thunder. Everybody just keep your questions till the end. We have some JetBrains prizes for the dumbest questions or smartest questions. I'm not sure. She will decide. Shea, it's all yours. Thank you so much for being here.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Yvonne, for inviting me. Yeah, great to be able to corrupt all of you today, and looking forward to sharing some of my experiences about getting started as a freelancer so that hopefully you don't have to make all the same mistakes that I did. So it's taken me 6 years to get where I am today, but with the right information, I think you can do it a hell of a lot quicker. So just for interest's sake, do we have anyone who is already freelancing, or are you all stuck with your bums in a 9-to-5 at the moment? Just put in the chat if you are already freelancing. And woo, okay, we knew. Thanks, Yvonne. We knew about you. Anyone else? Okay, we've got a company man since 2011. Nice. So we got a couple of freelancers in the house. So feel free to, in the chat, add any notes or anything that you think will help people who are thinking of making the leap. None of us know what we're doing, Elspie. It's always a work in progress. I wrote the book on freelancing and I still fake it as I make it every single day. So yeah, for those of you thinking about it, hopefully this will give you a bit of the quick how-tos and a bit of confidence to get started. So let me tell you not too much, a little bit about myself. So my name is Shea and I've been a freelancer since 2017, so about 6 years. And I'm the author of Freelance Like a Boss. And I wrote the book because there wasn't a definitive guide in South Africa that was specific to our context for starting a freelance business. So I thought, hell, I'm a writer. Let me just write down what I know. So it's a very anecdotal, practical. It's not some high-fluted, theoretical, academic text. It's not a long book. It's maybe about that fat. And it's intended to stay on your shelf as your little freelance friend that you can skip through to the chapters that interest you. So if you are already a freelancer, thinking of freelancing, new to freelancing, I really hope that the book can help you. So why would you want to freelance? And freelancers, feel free to chime in with any of your own reasons here. For me, it's about being my own boss. It's about having freedom to choose when and where I want to work. It's working towards my own dreams instead of someone else's. And look, I work damn hard, but at least it's going towards my direction and my path instead of making someone else rich. Maybe you want to travel more, spend time with your kids, tend to your garden, hang out with your dog, whatever it is, and your 9 to 5 is stopping you from doing that. Might want to look into freelancing. And this is my absolute worst, like taking leave to go to the frickin' dentist, or spending your leave days doing your personal admin because you're not able to get it done during the week. So that's why we call it freelancing, folks. And for me, the free is the operative word in the word freelance, is having the freedom to work on my own terms. So just a disclaimer, this list is all the good stuff. There's a lot of challenging and a lot of shitty stuff that's not included on this list, but I'm hoping that through my book, I'm able to help some people avoid some of that. And you know what? We're actually not going to go into that stuff today because I'm trying to convince you to actually become a freelancer. Another great reason, income potential. So this is my actual income from when I was working full-time in 2016 per month to what I'm making now. And I've quadrupled my income from being a freelancer. Look, it hasn't, as you can see, it hasn't happened overnight, but slowly, as I've learned the lessons and made my way, I've managed to quadruple my income. Maybe my salary was just really shit before, but still, I'm really chuffed that I've been able to get more freedom and financial freedom. It beats inflation, that is right, at least. And everyone's doing it. So I found this graph. This is looking at the American market, but I feel like it's still relevant because one of the main benefits about living in South Africa is we can work for international companies. So it still applies. And according to this graph, by 2027, the majority of the US workforce is expected to be freelancing. And you can see how that's grown over time. I mean, in such a short space of time. So, I mean, this is when I started freelancing in 2017, and there it was almost 60% of the workforce. And by 2027, which is not that far away, we're edging towards even the 90s in 2028. So freelancers are growing and they're feeling good about it. So you can see these positive figures showing how people do expect their income to grow as a freelancer. And 77% say they're optimistic about personal income or salary increases in 2023. So the market's there, the opportunities are there, and it's up to us to go out and grab them. And in the dev field, your skills are seriously in demand. So I had a look at some of the lists of the most in demand and well-paid freelance jobs, and these are them. So, and that's not to say if your skills don't fall on this list, there's no demand, but these are some of the most in demand and well-paid jobs. So what are we going to talk about this evening? We're going to focus on getting started. I mean, we could talk about freelancing. There's so much we can dive into, but I don't want to overwhelm you because I just want you to be able to have the confidence and the 101 to get started. So we're going to talk about starting with a side hustle. Some tax basics. Please don't leave the call at this point. I promise you it'll be very quick. How to price your services. Some freelancer safety nets that I recommend when you're diving into freelancing. My number one tip for finding your first clients. And then we're going to do some Q&A and award some prizes. So let's get started. Side hustling. Is there anyone, please pop in the chat, anyone who is currently employed full-time or part-time and has a side hustle? Let us know and let us know what you do, unless your employers are here, in which case you might not want them to know about it. So I started with a side hustle when I began freelancing. I was working in PC sales for Cornet. I was working as a marketing manager at a marketing agency, but I'd always been able to write well. So friends of mine would contact me who were in the freelancing space or had agencies and said, you know, could you write this and that for me? So that's how I started. So I had my full-time job, which, as you can see, wasn't paying me amazingly. And then on the side, I would do my writing. And one day I ended up with a writing gig that was kind of a part-time commitment, and it was earning me more than my full-time role. So I thought, well, stuff this, here I go. So it looks like quite a few of you are also in the side hustle business, which is a really great place to start, like I've said, and it's for a lot of these reasons. So building your portfolio. The most important, valuable asset you can have as a freelancer is a portfolio, because otherwise, how do people know that you actually can do what you purport to do? It also gives you a chance to set up your systems, like your invoicing, accounts, processes, tools, etc. Because not a lot of people tell you about freelancing is, sure, you could be the best web dev in the entire world. But when you become a freelancer, you're also a business owner. So now you're expected to be a marketing manager, finance manager, admin, HR, the list goes on. That's all on you, boo. So even if you have the skills, you need to learn how to run a business. And I think starting with the side hustle gives you a sort of low barrier to entry way of doing that. And yes, as Alspie says, the admin is the worst. The good news is today there are virtual assistants and a number of outsourced services that can help you with some of that. And then from a financial perspective, starting with a side hustle means that you're not just quitting your job and then debit order day comes and you wonder why you ever did this and start getting ready to hand the keys back to your car. When you start with a side hustle, you already have a bit of income coming in. And what I would suggest is, if you can, to build your side hustle to a point where it's just enough to cover those like really basic expenses that you know are going to come off on debit order day if you can. And then also while you're doing that, while you have a full-time job, you can use the extra income from your side hustle to start saving for a freedom fund. And freedom funds, you could also call it an emergency fund. I like to call it a freedom fund because it gives you, it's a bit of a buffer and money saved that's easily accessible, that gives you the freedom to follow your dreams. Other reasons to start with a side hustle: you get to develop your skills, explore your target market, understand your client needs. I call it my strip my moer fund. If that's what it takes, that's what it takes. And then also to test the waters. Maybe you start freelancing in a certain industry and then you realize, oh, this actually sucks. I don't want to do this. So it's instead of, and then you still have your full-time job to fall back on. So if you are thinking of freelancing, I'd recommend choosing that skill that you plan on selling and just finding a few side projects here and there. Yes, for the moment, it will mean some early mornings, some late nights. Maybe you just work when your boss isn't looking, whatever it takes. There will be a bit of hustle involved, but I think it's worth it. Okay, so let's briefly touch on tax. I am no tax consultant, so I'm just going to give you, in case you are thinking of freelancing. I actually had someone who read my book recently and said, thank goodness I read your book because it saved me from penalties I would have had to pay from missing out on this. So before I skip to this slide, this tweet is just so true. So tax is a burden, and I highly recommend doing it, getting someone else to do it for you. But here is what you need to know. So as a freelancer, you become a provisional taxpayer. And what that means is that instead of paying just your income tax, you also pay provisional tax twice a year. It sounds like a pain, but it is also a way of protecting you, because otherwise you could be hit with a massive tax bill that you have to pay at the end of the financial year. And where the hell does that money come from? So just keep these dates in mind, find your tax professional, and just know, and they should inform you, that when you become a freelancer, you're going to be liable for provisional tax. And in fact, even if you are side hustling, you should be declaring your income and paying provisional tax on that. Okay, last thing on tax, and this is a long list. I'm not expecting you, maybe you can go back to the YouTube if you need to refer it, or again, speak to a tax consultant who is worth paying and should be the first professional you get on board. But just be aware that when you work for yourself, you must claim your business expenses to reduce your taxable income. So let's say you earned 20,000 Rand that month and your expenses were 10,000 Rand. It means you're only going to be taxed on 10,000 Rand, not 20. So you can see what a big impact it can make. So there's your business expenses, home office expenses, and then some other expenses that also apply to your income tax. Most importantly, just keep proof of payment of everything. For some reason, SARS freaking hates freelancers. I get audited almost every year, even though, you know, my documents are in order, and there's plenty of high net worth individuals to go chase who are siphoning funds off to multiple different countries. That ain't me, but nevertheless, I get audited almost every year. So just be sure to keep all your documentation. Okay. Oh, wait, one more slide on tax. It's just a quick summary. So keep all your receipts. Oh, and this is a good one. So now, even though you're paying twice a year, it still can be a bit of a significant amount if your expenses aren't that high. So it's important to put money away every month into some kind of interest generating fund so that by the time it comes to tax season, you don't have to sell a kidney and your firstborn to pay SARS. So what I recommend is taking a percentage based on what tax bracket you're in. And then hopefully it'll be less than that once you've added your expenses. And then you'll have bonus money left afterwards. And then, yes, as Ewald says, just get a professional to do it for you. Okay, that's it on tax. Those are just my really must-have, need to know. And as Jethro says, yes, if you choose to register not as a sole proprietor, but as a PTY limited, you also pay VAT, which is a nice extra little 15%. Okay, so let's talk about, now that we've given all this money to SARS, let's talk about actually making some money, which is why we want to become a freelancer in the first place. So it can be really challenging to work out how to charge your clients because there are so many variables depending on the client's budget, your needs, the scope of work, the industry, the country, the list goes on and on and on. So what I suggest is looking, instead of how much am I going to charge for this and sucking a number out your thumb or basing it on what you can find from the Safria rates, which can be a good starting point. I suggest starting backwards if you want to create a life that is ideal and income that is sustainable and a business that is successful. So what I mean by that is working out based on your ideal situation of how many hours you want to work a week, how many holidays you want to take, how much you want to earn per month, and to work backwards from there to form a basic hourly rate. On the topic of hourly rate, I wouldn't suggest using an hourly rate because it means you get penalized for getting better at doing your job. So a project fee is generally more favorable. But what you can do is use your hourly rate to inform your project rate. So however many hours you think it's going to take you, add a shitload of buffer, and you can use that as your project rate. So I've put the link, we're not going to go through it now, but I've put the link to a calculator on the freebies page on my website that a lot of people have said have been really handy in helping them come up with that basic number from where to start. And if you already have a salary that you're getting, just figure out what that number would look like, including your expenses that you're going to have as a business owner. So that's my suggestion, is for a starting point, look at how much you actually want to earn. So just grab that link if you're interested in checking it out. It's pretty easy. You just fill in some information, then it'll pop out a base and minimum hourly rate for you. Okay, so now we're going to talk about some safety nets. And again, I know this isn't super sexy stuff about becoming a high rolling freelancer, but in order to build a successful, sustainable business, you really need to have some things in place. So I call them the freelancer safety nets. And you'll need these financial cushions when you're first starting out. And if things go pear, you could lose a major client like this, and there goes half your income. You could have a death in the family, heaven forbid, and you're unable to work for a while. So you could have an injury. So it's important to have these safety nets in place, because now that you are on your own, you don't have the sick days and leave days and personal leave days and maybe medical aid and a provident fund and all those things that you may have with an employer. So the basics that I would recommend is the emergency or freedom fund that we've spoken about. And as a general rule, that should be about 3 months worth of expenses that you have saved away, so that, maybe you even decide, I became a freelancer for some freedom, stuff it, I'm going to go travel for 3 months, just to make sure that you have that cushion behind you. So income protection, this is something you can chat to your broker about. So this is if you get injured or sick or unable to work, the insurance will pay you out a basic, and the number will depend on your needs. So it's very specific. Insurance, depending what kind of business you're in, you may need business insurance. The only thing other than my obvious car, household, etc., I do insure my laptop. I can't work a day without my laptop, and I like to have a good, fast, high-spec laptop. And I'm sure in the dev space, there's a lot of that kind of equipment that you need. So ensuring those items that you're able to replace them immediately if something were to happen. Retirement savings, also very important. And if you need some inspiration to save for your retirement, remember that your RA contributions are tax deductible. So let's say, again, you've earned that 20,000 Rand a month, 10,000's worth of expenses. If you put 2,000 away into your RA, you're only getting taxed on 8 grand instead of 10 grand. So you can ensure some massive tax savings. Yes, you do get taxed when you take it out later on in life, but I'd still rather fund my future self than SARS. Medical aid, even if you can only afford hospital insurance, which is slightly different and covers you in case of an emergency in hospital, please have some kind of cover if you don't want to end up bleeding out in the halls of some kind of government institution. Gap cover, because obviously having medical aid isn't enough. You have to have cover on your cover. So gap cover, another must. And then obviously we live in South Africa. So as a freelancer, you have to have some form of backup power, even if it's just a UPS to keep your Wi-Fi running. I didn't have any form of backup for a while, and I can't tell you how stressful it was. I thought, oh, it's fine. I'll just go work in a coffee shop. Inevitably, there would be an issue with their Wi-Fi, or I couldn't get there in time, or seriously, just get yourself something that will keep the basics going for at least 2 hours. And again, I'm not a financial advisor, so please talk to an advisor or broker about the best products for your needs. But this is something you can work on before you quit your job to make sure that you have everything in place and you're going out safely. Okay, now this is a little bit more fun. Getting a client, how? So I have one tip that's worked for me, and it's snowballed throughout my business, is building a network and telling everyone you know that what you do. And it might seem odd. I mean, no one wants to go to the braai and talk about their job the whole time. But letting your ex-colleagues, ex-bosses, friends, family, you're not trying to make them your client. In fact, stay away from friends and family. They are literally the worst clients. But you want them to be your advocate so that they can refer you when they hear of someone needing for your services. This also extends to your social media networks. You don't want to get too bogged down there, but there's some great groups to join on Facebook. You can get active on LinkedIn. Just letting people know what you do instead of maybe a hard sell of your skills. That really is the best way to find clients, because those recommendations come with a tick trust symbol already. You don't have to sell yourself or prove yourself. Half the time, if someone refers you, they don't even ask to see the client doesn't even ask to see your portfolio or anything. They just say, oh, great, so-and-so referred you, so I would love to use you. So that is definitely the best way to find clients. And then once you have some clients, to ask your existing clients if they have anyone to refer you to. Yeah, Ewald makes a good point. He says friends, family members, neighbors must pay double. Problem is half the time they don't pay you. So you could charge them double, but there's no guarantee they're actually going to pay you. And Elspie's right, referrals are lifeblood. So before you go out and think you need to do this massive marketing splash, I need a website immediately, I need this, that, posters, business cards. Whoa. Honestly, get your first clients first by just telling some people what you do. And if anyone needs a web developer, Elspie's on the hunt. Great opportunity there. Okay, so it's time to award some prizes. So in the comments, fastest finger first. What is the name of my book? Oh, I think Nicholas took the win there from what I can see. Nicholas, sorry. Nice one. Okay. So I think that's what was it? Jetpack subscription to use. Sorry, I can't remember what the product was.
JetBrains. So JetBrains license. Yes.
Thank you. A JetBrains license for you. Okay, next question. What is the second provisional tax deadline? Okay, I think
We have
Jan
someone
Rudolph
in
had it first.
person. We had someone in person shouted out 31 August, Maria Geldenhuis.
Okay, cool. I didn't hear the in-person one. So either I'll let you guys decide who gets that one. I don't want to moderate.
I guess we'll discuss it. We'll discuss it afterwards. Ewald and I.
Okay. All right. Perfect. When the accountant shouts. Yes,
Only
exactly.
you will know, Josh. Make sure they bribe you.
Will do.
Okay, so I don't want to hand out the other prize just yet, because I don't want to get to an awkward moment where I ask you to ask me questions and no one has any questions for me. So that's the next section. So please feel free to, if you're able to, turn on your camera, turn on the sound, and let me know if you have any questions about starting your freelance journey. Or in the chat, also cool.
Don't be shy.
I've got a question. Sorry, I'm not sure if I interrupted someone, but my question is, you spoke about, paying yourself a salary, and, how do you decide as a freelancer, what's an okay amount to pay yourself as a salary that isn't sort of tax evasion?
So because I'm a sole proprietor, I don't pay myself a salary. I put money away for my tax and I put money into my savings. But as a sole prop, I don't pay myself a salary. What comes into the bank account is what I declare. But perhaps someone else has a PTY. So maybe in the comments, sorry, I can't remember who it was. Whoever has a PTY.
I can answer that. So you have to speak to your accountant, but basically what you want to do is you want to maximize your tax benefits from having a PTY. And that usually involves taking a slightly smaller salary through the year so that your tax load is lower. And then your PTY pays dividends at the end of the year, which are taxed lower. It's a little bit more admin, it's a little bit more hassle, but you can effectively have your PTY cover costs like your laptop, your internet, insurance, a whole bunch of other things, so that those amounts don't come out of your salary. And then together with the lower total income that you get, you are in a lower tax bracket. and then the dividends kind of make up the difference. It's something you really need to discuss with your accountant, though, because it's very easy to screw it up, and then the only one that wins is SARS, and they like winning. So get yourself a good accountant.
Cool.
Thank you, Ewald.
Can I ask one more follow-up question? Okay, so just someone told me that if you're a freelancer and you have only one client, it's like a problem for SARS. Do you know anything about that? Or
Yes, so you have to have 80%, you can't have more than 80% of your income from one client. And the reason for that is what they're trying to prevent is companies taking on freelancers or consultants and basically denying them employment benefits, even though they are essentially employees. So yes, you can't have more than 80% of your income from one client.
oh,
There is a caveat around that, though. That comes into play when you want to do all kinds of tax deductions. If you don't do tax deductions, SARS doesn't care. So depending on how well your client pays you, it might be okay. Again, an accountant is the one that will be able to answer this for you. In my personal capacity, I have a PTY and I have my personal business. In my personal capacity, I do not claim anything from SARS because it just makes my life a lot simpler and easier, and it's not worth it. But that depends on your situation. My accountant showed me the amount of admin involved, and I just said no.
okay. Well, thank you, guys.
Sure. And maybe if Ewald's accountant, if he wants to share the details of his accountant, sounds like some really good advice coming from him. I see Jethro has a question. How much has your website helped in getting new clients? So Jethro actually didn't have a website for quite an embarrassingly long time. I think I only got a website about 2 years ago, maybe. So like 5 years in. And to be honest, I hadn't needed to. Through my referrals, I was getting enough work. And then I decided to, mainly for credibility and as a way to, because before I was sending my portfolio in dribs and drabs and was becoming a bit of admin. So it basically intended to become the hub for my portfolio. So that instead of attaching documents and Google Docs and links, I could just send people to one place. So that was my main reason. But I think it has subsequently given me a lot more credibility. I was able to secure some international work on the basis of my website. So it's not something to rush into necessarily, but also not something to ignore completely. I probably should have done it before 5 years. And so I think it is an exercise worth having, but don't let it hold you back from starting your freelance journey. And then Brian said, have you ever tried using business networking events and expos to get your name out there? So I have attended, Brian, BNI, Business Networking International, I think it is. But what I've realized is that it's all about where your target audience is at. So the local BNI is not my target audience, although they can become advocates, which is great. What I'm trying to do now is target more overseas companies. So I'm not going to find them at face-to-face events. So instead, I've joined a couple of communities. So there's international freelance communities that I've joined where it's mainly online kind of events. But again, it totally depends on who you're targeting and what your kind of product is. There can be huge value in that face-to-face networking at expos and events, etc. So it really depends on who you're trying to attract. Question from the venue. Any tips for storing all your receipts? So digitally, I currently use Zoho. But there's a couple of apps out there and I know it's a real bind. You could pay someone to do this for you. I take a photo of my slip and save it in the right folder online. It's so much easier to have it digitally because when you get audited, then you can just say, here they are to your accountant instead of having to go back and take photocopies like it's 1990. So to try get them digital and try do it once a month, so you're not landing up with a massive pile. I see also people have put comments with some apps for storing. Okay, this is an interesting question. So have you ever had any experience with platforms like Upwork, who might not be too keen on the networking bit? So I have avoided those platforms, not to say there's not a place for them, but I do believe it can be a race to the bottom. So you're up against thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of other freelancers, all bidding for that same work. And they're bidding based on price mainly. Yes, you can up your status, but that takes a lot of time, and then people will pay more for you. But I just feel like you get so much better business from your referrals and also from the relationships you're able to develop with your clients. So those platforms like Fiverr and Upwork, it's very transactional. The client wants something and they want you to give it to them. And there's a lot less empathy and kindness. So from what I've heard, it's perhaps not the best option. It could be a great way to get started, get your very first portfolio pieces. But unless you are one of the top in your field that have worked their way up the Upwork or Fiverr ranks, I think it can be quite challenging to get the rates that you deserve. How do you create a portfolio when clients ask for an NDA or work white label? So if they're willing to offer you a testimonial, that can be helpful in place of using their work in a portfolio. So even if you have to write it for them, and even if they don't want to put their company name, even if it's just a first name, it's better than nothing. Obviously better if you can get full name, title, company, but just getting a quote from that client will work. And then another way to build your portfolio is going back to the good old friends and family, knowing that perhaps it won't be your highest paying job, but at least it's something that you can show. Also, don't be afraid to show your own work that you've done in a personal capacity. So I use personal writing projects in my portfolio, things that I've submitted to magazines or newspapers. Perhaps if you are a designer or a developer, it could be your own website. So don't be afraid to use those kind of things too. I would really say, as an absolute last resort, try not to offer free services in exchange for portfolio work. It just creates something that we don't want in the industry today. Even I was on a Facebook group and I saw someone, they were looking for an SEO specialist, and they're saying would be great exposure for you and great work for your portfolio. Well, look, I'm not that keen on working for free, even if it's going to give me a portfolio piece. And I really think as an industry, we should try eliminate that kind of entitlement. So if you could maybe, or another ideal is to seek from a nonprofit or something that you feel really passionate about, that you can do some work for them for free. And, you know, at least it's for a good cause or something that speaks to your heart. Yes. Okay. So this is also so many good questions. I'm going to be at a bit of a loss when doing this last prize. Faith says, have you ever had to consider employing other freelancers when the workload is overwhelming? So yes, I have subcontracted to other freelancers. It's not for me. Some people build a business based on subcontracting. What I'd rather do, so if it's work that falls outside of my skill set, I will just refer them straight away to another freelancer. Again, that's where your networks, communities of fellow freelancers are also really powerful. And if it's work that I have I'd rather say no to the work than hand it over to someone, because I love writing. I do not love managing people. I do not love sending invoices. I do not love dealing with client admin. So by having a subcontractor, I'm kind of doing the parts of my job that I don't like. And this is just a very personal thing, because it can help your income potential if you're able to bring people on into a team. I just know that it's not something, that's not why I became a freelancer. So it's not for me, but it is common practice to subcontract. Obviously, to do it wisely. There is actually a section on the book that might be interesting for you.
Thank
Okay,
you.
follow-up question. Sure. How do you ask for a testimonial? Feels very forward and pushy, so I never ask for one. All I can say is, if you know you've done the job well, stand by that. Even if, and I've done this before, a lot of clients, they're busy, they don't like writing. You write a little testimonial for them and say, would you be happy to send something like this? Because often they'll actually ask you to do that for them. They'll say, yeah, I don't mind, just write it for me. Sometimes instead of sitting down and typing out an email saying, dear so-and-so, please will you send me a testimonial? It's actually easier when you just speaking to them casually on your next meeting to say, oh, hey, there's something I wanted to ask you. I'm building my portfolio and do you mind writing a testimonial for me? Another thing you can do is on LinkedIn, you ask for recommendations. So you can send them a recommendation request, and then you can use that once it's on the platform and they've agreed to do it. You can take that off the platform and use it as a testimonial too. But I would really urge you to stand by the good work you've done and don't be scared to ask. Is there anything that I've missed, Josh? Oh, here's one. What do you miss most about my life before freelancing? See, Ewald says being able to blame other people for stuff. True story. I love freelancing. I'm not going to lie. What do I miss? I do miss being able to sort of clock off. So with freelancing, you have to be very disciplined about clocking off, and it's not always easy. And you tend to take on more work than you should, because more work means more money, and we're all greedy and we can't help ourselves. So I do miss that feeling of, and this is something that is totally within your control as a freelancer. I'm just not 100% there yet, but I do miss that feeling of, it's 4:30, I'm out of here. Close the laptop, don't look at it again. That's probably the main thing. Josh has a hand.
Yeah, I just want to ask, there's one more question in person. How do you go about defining that scope?
Yeah, and sort of translating the technical details into terms the client can understand.
And translating the technical details into terms clients can understand.
So perhaps what I always suggest when doing like a proposal or pitch is, instead of focusing on the technical detail, to focus on the client need. So you've discovered in your calls the reason why they are actually reaching out to you and what they want to get out of it. So most of your proposal or pitch should actually focus on how you will, not technically, but those identifying those needs and saying in a more general way how you will address them. To be honest, people aren't really going to dig that unless they have previous experience and knowledge. They're not going to dig that deep into the technical stuff anyway. So you can have that information available, maybe even as an appendix or additional information, but I would really suggest structuring your proposals or pitches in a way that puts the client needs first and the how later. So start with the why, and then the how can come further down if it's something that they're interested in. And you can also, if it's a client that you have a good relationship with, or someone who you think would be open to it, to actually discuss with them, if you need to get into some of that technical detail, okay, what makes sense to you here? What do I need to explain? And that'll give you an idea. You could even include FAQs on your website or in your next section. So getting a sense of the kind of questions clients have that they need answers to. Yeah, especially I think in the dev field, the rest of us have no idea what you're talking about. So we really don't care what you use in general, unless someone has a specific scope of knowledge or expertise. We don't care what you use. We just want to know that the job is going to get done and how much it's going to cost us. Was there anything else, Josh? Yes, make the machine go bing. That's all we want to know. Don't break it.
Nothing more from the side, thanks.
Okay.
Have you given away your last prize, Shay?
No, I've been so busy answering questions. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to close my eyes and scroll through the chat, and then whoever's name is at the top when I stop, I'm going to give that one away. I'm going up and down.
I think you should give it to the anyone who asked the question in person.
Okay. Oh, moderation. I'm happy to do that if everyone else is.
It was a joke. I was the one who asked the question. So
Okay, sorry, state. Okay, I'm going to do this again. But you did type a few things as well, I think. So let's see.
Rowan,
Okay,
where did you
Elizabeth.
work again?
Elizabeth Mayer,
Congratulations,
you are
Elizabeth.
number 3.
Rowan, where do you work again?
I've left the one you're thinking of, but yeah, I work for BMW IT Hub now.
I'm just gonna give them a call tomorrow morning and say,
Oh, wait. Never mind.
So who's quitting their jobs? Hands up.
Rowan is.
I know. He's got all the detailed questions. Well, if you do have any further questions, please feel free. Best place to probably reach me is on LinkedIn or via my website. More than happy to help anyone who's ready to take a dump on their boss's desk and explore some freelance freedom.
Awesome. Shea, thank you so much for this. This was spectacular. I'm looking forward to the fire that's going to run through the IT world in South Africa with all the resignations, all the panic that's going to be sown across the companies. Folks, if you're interested in freelancing, I highly suggest you go get her book. It's not just a story. There's very useful lists and tips and tricks and paths to follow to help you prepare for freelancing, to help you figure out whether freelancing is for you or not. And then if you are jumping into the freelancing world, to help you take flight and soar. I've learned a few things from the book. I mean, I've been freelancing forever. So it's really good. I love the fact that it's written from a South African perspective. So it's not someone in Boston or someplace like that sitting and writing about the IRS or any of that kind of nonsense. It's actually written for South Africans by a South African. It's really great. Plus, I get a 50% commission if you buy the book. So, and that's now a fact. It's recorded. So, Shea, I'll hold you to it. You can get the book is on Shea's website. Elsabe, if you can't Google it, I'm worried about you.
So sick. Thank you. That was so much fun, everyone. It was really great. And I loved all your comments and questions. So thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. Elizabeth, if you could just direct message me your email for your prize, that would be great. Cool. I'm stopping the recording. Thanks, everyone.
Yes, the book, it's a